We're rolling. Just watching the dogs talk. So we're down at the coach. That's not very enthusiastic, is it? Welcome back to the YouTube. We're down at the coach. I've just come from home where we were filming the split video. So reference the card above in the corner. Go back and just find out how my split's made, why it's made that way, how you might want to make a split. At the end of that video, I went through my new split, and we're now going to go into one of those sessions. So today it's delts and upper back, which basically means some pressing, some lateral raising, and then some upper back movements at the end, which we'll talk about in more detail when we get there. But without further ado, if you've been enjoying these, like, comment, subscribe, and let's train some delts.
Whoa. Remember they said you'll be just like your daddy. Remember they said you'll be just like your mama. Remember they said that day that you'll be nothing. Tell them do not forget it. This for the ones committing offenses. This for the victim, it's for the addicted. This for the dealers, this for the ones that thought they sins ain't fit forgiveness. This for the ones
Right, we're starting with seated crucifix lateral raise. Beauty of this movement is the resistance curve. It's basically, it's going to be light, heavy, light. So it's going to be easy at the start, which is a bit of a mismatch because the delt's strongest in this position. As we get weaker and weaker, it gets harder, but then it gets easier again. So when we're in that shortened range right up here, you're not going to get a delt much shorter than that. It's dropped right off. And the reason is because the cable's here, so it runs really close to the axis. So it's dropped right off. We do 3 sets on here. It's going to do 2 things. We're obviously going to overload it, but it's going to really prime my delts. So by the end of these 3 sets, they should be hurting already. And then we're going to a press. I feel like I don't need to explain this again and again, but cuffs. The use of the cuffs, reduce internal joint pressure, move the cuff closer to the joint that we're trying to work around, which is the delt. And obviously as well, I think for me, which I learned recently on a different movement, when you're not holding on to something and gripping something, the sort of neurological connection moves away from there to the muscle you're trying to use. So if you think about with D handle, you're really thinking about gripping that handle hard. That is all removed with a cuff. It slides further up the arm, and you can literally just focus on the action of what the delt wants to do, which is adduct the arm. So that's why we're using the cuff. Something else as well, I think when you're starting a workout, I will typically do this with all my sessions. If you challenge the muscle in that shortened range first, so as I say here, we're going to failure, we're taking the muscle all the way into that shortened range, the delt's as short as it can be there. I find it really easy to build like a connection with that muscle in that shortened range. So same goes for like chest. Start with a pec deck, spend some time in that shortened range, and then you're going to be able to connect with that muscle before you go into probably a less neurologically connecting movement, like a press. I've got 3 sets on here. They're all 8 to 12. The way I'm going to set it up is like a higher rep one first, so I've hit 12 there. And then I'm going to go a bit heavier, probably try and get the bottom end of that rep range, maybe 8 to 9, and then I'll come back up, a bit of a back off there. Just as good as the old one. Nice, I like it. I was saying to Gigi, I dropped it like last night with the screen protector on, and the screen protector did its job and it broke, the screen didn't, so I need to go home and put a new one on. But it's nice, the camera's good. We were playing around with the macro earlier. I could probably macro on these flies. Anyway, final set. I was just looking and I've missed my reps. That's what, are you still filming? I should provide some context. We're off the back of the Arnold's. This is suboptimal, but I'll be honest with you anyway. I've trained 4 days in a row this week because I want to catch up with my split. So obviously I was at the Arnold's for 3 days. I trained on the Friday, then not Saturday or Sunday, which obviously that's not my split. So I've done pull, push this week. I'm going to rest tomorrow, which is Friday, and then I'll do legs on Saturday. But I was just looking at my numbers there, and top set, the first set was fine, the second set I've missed like 2 reps. So there you go, recovery and frequency, as per the previous vid. So, you'll hear us talking quite a lot about moment arms, and you'll sometimes probably be like, what the fuck is that? I believe, this is from memory, I've not looked this up, the definition of a moment arm is a perpendicular line from the point of rotation of the joint axis and the point of application. So the point of application in this movement is the cuff, and the the joint axis, or the axis of rotation is my shoulder joint. So what you'll see as we go through this movement is, as I said earlier, the cable starts close to my shoulder, then it gets further and further away, and then it gets closer.
Get back up, you. Don't stay down, you. Don't you drown, you. Wear your crown, you. Worthy is the Lamb.
Yes, sir. Right, first press. So, press is a bit of a contentious one with, I use that word on Instagram the other day. I don't know if it's right. I think it's right. Conscientious. What I think that means is, like, it's up for discussion. What do you reckon? No, that's conscientious. That's if you're like, if you've got a conscience. I'm talking about content. I don't know. I don't know if it's a word, but what I mean by it is, it's like up for debate. So, pressing, this isn't really the function of the delt as such. The delt's main function is adduction of the shoulder. So you're getting some adduction at this point, but it's kind of going from the mid-range to the shorter range. However, well, I'll go back to what I'm trying to explain. Basically, you can get all you need from a delt, from like a lateral raise movement. So that is what the delt wants to do. That's, in theory, what you need to do. However, you're not going to be able to handle the same weight on a lateral raise as you are on a press. So I'm going to put quite a lot of weight through this movement, and obviously that's going to provide a much heavier challenge through the delt in that mid to short range that I wouldn't be able to get from a lateral raise. And obviously mechanical tension is the main driver of hypertrophy. So mechanical tension we put on a muscle by putting weight through it, and also the internal focus we put on a muscle. So there's a couple of things to bear in mind there. So a couple more feeder sets, and then we'll go top set and back off. Next one. Pizzas or donuts today? What do you fancy, everyone? I fancy donuts. Donuts. So what we're going to do here is gym pin. Shout out gym pin. Gym pin the machine, because it's not heavy enough for a strong brute like me. So we took 2 plates on top of this. It literally just means we can add more weight to the machine. There's nothing more to it. Oh, fucking hell. So that was the top set, obviously ultra low reps there. That's about as low as I'll go. It's just about -6 reps. The range is 6 to 9. Now I'm going to go back off the range, will be 10 to 14. Last few weeks I've actually missed that range, so I need to drop the weight a bit further, especially today because I'm feeling pretty fatigued, and try and get in that range of 10 to 14. So I've taken 30 kilos off, which is approximately 20%, 25%, and then we'll try and get that 10 range. Might work for just short, but I'll give it a go.
You just see my weakness, he see gold. All that dirty, washed it white as snow. You see me as broke, he see me as...
Right, way too few struggling with this. We're about to do okay with the handle chest press. People are always saying, like, how do I get into it? In terms of, it's awkward, I'm not starting in my active range. What you need is a couple of these, or daisy chains. These are nylon slings you get off Amazon. I think these are 30 centimetre ones, are like, I don't know, £4. So what I'm going to do is loop it through the D handle and essentially extend the D handle. So now the D handle's that long, right? Clip that on there, do the same the other side, and I should be able to start within my active range of motion. See that? Active range, kind of. Oh, fuck me. Ripped my arms off. sound. Okay, so that's the one and only chest press movement done for this session. Probably one of my favourite presses, to be fair. I'd never do it on its own. It's not like brute strength, but it's a good movement. Back to delts now. Final sort of lateral head of the delt movement. Standing cuff lateral raise. What I was speaking about earlier on, where like the perfect delt movement would be one that starts really hard down here and then just gets gradually easier because we get weaker as we drive out, okay? And that's what we're going to do with this movement. So I'm going to start down here. The cuff's pulling an arm across us. So that is where this movement beats a dumbbell lateral raise, all ends up. If you think about a dumbbell lateral raise here, there's zero resistance. It's just gravity to the floor, which isn't challenging the delt, right? With a standing cuff lateral raise, the force is pulling us this way. So we've got a large moment arm. That moment arm just gets smaller and smaller. So if you follow while I'm doing it, follow the cable, the actual distance between the cable and my shoulder joint is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller until it's here. In which case it's going to be diagonally across here. There's going to be quite a small gap, so it's dropped off completely. Basically makes it the perfect delt movement, in my humble opinion. Right, we were talking about moment arms earlier, and Gigi quite rightly stated, the most efficient moment arm from the perspective of the exercise, so effectively a force working on our body is going to be when it's at a right angle to the point of application. So what I mean by that is, what we've got here, we're all good? The way I've set this cable up is so that with my wrist in that cuff, it's going to be at a perfect, well, almost a perfect 90 degrees to the point of application. So if you look at it, if you're looking at this, we draw a degree there, it's going to be 90 degrees. That means that it's going to be as hard as possible at this point, which is what we want, because that is where we're as strong as we can be. And obviously as we drive out, as I mentioned a minute ago, you'll see the moment arm get smaller.
Got a new chant, trying to be decent, trying to do right, desires increasing, battles inside, I'm fighting with reason, walking through life and searching for meaning, nothing I did to them was pleasing, got some revenge, it never was even, rushed to the top, I barely was breathing, how could I do
So that's the lateral head of the delt done. That's the bit that's going to make you look nice and wide. Something's going to make you look a bit deeper, a bit thicker. Is obviously working on the rear head. You don't really need to bother about the anterior head. Like, it's going to get so much action when you're pressing anyway. So medial, lateral, whatever you want to call it, and then the posterior or the rear delt for us simpletons. Going to do a dual cuffed cable rear delt here with a pad to brace against. Obviously, it's just going to stop me from moving about, shaking about. Stability equals power output. So the more stable we can be in the movement, likely the more power we can produce. So that's what that's there for. Cable sleeve. Now, unfortunately, the infamous Cybex Bravo is pretty rare when it comes to gyms in the UK. I think there's only a few that actually have one, which is, the difference is it's got this pad that sticks out. If you didn't have one, you kind of got two options. You can do a machine rear delt. This is really pretty similar to that, so like a pec deck. Just sit facing a pec deck, chest against the pad, and you've kind of got the same movement. Or get a close cable stack or a wide cable stack if you wanted, and just pull up a bench in the middle, and you can sit chest braced to the bench. Stick a plate down there, obviously, so the bench doesn't move, and you've kind of emulated this movement. There's nothing special about this compared to those two movements, really. final movement, like an upper back machine row. We're just going back to that idea that we're in a fixed position. Remember what I said earlier about the press? This may well not all be rear delt, but I'm going to be able to put a lot more load through my rear delt on this movement than I can on like a cable or anything like that. So the intent here, I'm just aligning the path of motion with my almost my clavicles, and just looking to literally drive the elbows out as far as I can. And then I'm kind of trying to go a bit back further than I would if I was rowing. We know that when the elbow gets to in line with the humerus gets in line with the torso, that's all sort of lats. The further you go, rear delt starts to come into it. So a couple of points in terms of your execution on this movement. This will be the final movement for the day. Then we'll get some post-workout shots, and then we'll be off. So that is my delts and like upper back session complete. I'm going to rest tomorrow. It's well needed, and then I'll hit legs on Saturday. Perfect sort of personification of like just training too much and why rest is important. I think I would have gotten more out of today if I was fully rested, but I had to train to get around back to my my schedule, my routine that I love so much as a bodybuilder. Anyway, that's it for today. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.